We are drowning in information every single day. Articles, videos, courses, it's just endless. But how much of that stuff do we actually, get? Today, we are going to build a system, a real blueprint to turn all that raw data into genuine, lasting understanding. So let's just be real for a second. Think about the last time you went down a rabbit hole on some topic. You watched 10 videos, you read a few articles, and then a week later, can you actually explain it to someone? Or even to yourself? Yeah, we've all been there. It's frustrating, right? Look, information is everywhere. It's a fire hose pointed right at us. But the ability to take that chaos and turn it into real, structured knowledge, that feels like a superpower. Most of us live over here, in this info overload mess, when what we're all desperately trying to get to is clarity. Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're building that bridge. In this explainer, I'm going to give you a simple, super powerful blueprint to turn anything you learn into clear notes, a strong memory, and a summary so solid you could teach it to somebody else, okay? Let's get into it. So from now on, I want you to think of yourself as a knowledge architect. This isn't just about passively collecting facts like you're filling a bucket. Nope. It's about consciously constructing a solid building of understanding. And every great architect, of course, needs a blueprint. First, it really helps to see that learning happens in levels. You start with just raw data, like random facts. When you organize those facts, it becomes information. But here's where the magic happens. When you start connecting those ideas, you build knowledge. And finally, when you actually use it, that's application. The problem is, most people get stuck at the information level. Today, we're going all the way. And here it is. This is our blueprint. It's a simple three-part system. First, we're going to use the three-box note system to give our thinking some structure. Second, we'll nail the one-paragraph summary to prove we actually get it. And third, we'll design a little mini learning project to lock it all in for good. All right, let's grab our first tool, the three-box note system. Now, this is not your typical high school-style note-taking where you just copy everything down. This is a framework that forces your brain to be an active participant, to process and organize what you're learning right from the very start. And it is so beautifully simple. You just divide your notes into three boxes. What, for the basic facts and definitions. Why, this is for the reasons, the relationships, the connections. And how, this is all about practical actions and what to do next. Let's use a real-world example. Say you're researching whether to buy an electric car. In box 1, the what box, you capture the core facts. Think of this like a cheat sheet for your future self. We're talking short phrases, not long sentences. Just the absolute essentials. Okay, but box 2, the why box, this is where the real understanding starts to click. You're not just listing facts anymore, you're connecting the dots. Why do government subsidies even matter? Well, because they make the car cheaper. Why do you care about the charging network? Because it solves the fear of running out of juice. This is where information starts turning into actual knowledge. And finally, box 3, how, turns all that learning into a real-life plan. This box is all about action. How can you use this? What's your first step? This is what makes sure your notes are a launchpad for a real decision, not just a dusty record of what you learned. Okay, so you've got your three-box notes filled out. Now it's time to unleash what I like to call the summary superpower. This is the ultimate test. It's how you prove to yourself that you've actually absorbed the material. You've probably heard this famous idea, right? It's often linked to Einstein, and it's so true. Being able to take a really complex topic and boil it down into simple terms, that is the clearest sign of mastery there is. And to help you do that, here is a simple but ridiculously effective fill-in-the-blank template. You just fill it in, using your own words, pulling from the awesome insights you already organized in your three-box notes. The trick is to imagine you're explaining it to a friend who has no idea what you're talking about. So let's try it with our EV example. Using our notes, we could write something like this. This topic is about the practicality of buying an EV. It mainly explains the key factors of cost, charging, and technology. In practice, this matters because the decision affects your personal finances, your daily convenience, and your environmental impact. Boom! See how powerful that is? And this just shows the transformation perfectly. You go from pages and pages of scattered, messy notes to a single, powerful, coherent paragraph that you can actually remember and share. That one paragraph, that's you being a knowledge architect. All right, we're at the final and, honestly, the most powerful step, application. Reading and summarizing is fantastic, but to make that knowledge truly stick in your brain for the long haul, you have to use it. And a small, structured learning project is the absolute best way to do that. We can break any little project like this down into 5 simple pieces. You need a clear goal, a few key resources, some dedicated time for practice, a specific output you're going to create, and then a moment for reflection at the very end. Here's what that could look like if you wanted to learn the basics of meditation in just 1 week. Notice how each day is small and totally specific. You define your goal, you find your resources, you take your 3-box notes, you do the practice, you create your 1-paragraph summary as your output, and then you reflect. It's a completely manageable step-by-step process. But here's the most crucial part of all of this: the output and the reflection. That's where the real magic happens. Creating an output, like your summary, is what cements the knowledge in place. But the reflection, that's what turns that knowledge into personal wisdom. So, there you have it. You have the blueprint now. The 3-box notes for structure, the 1-paragraph summary for clarity, and the mini project for making it stick. The only question left is, what are you going to build? What knowledge will you architect first?